Whew. Yes, guys, good night again from Sex on the Bridge with me, the original dancehall Queen Carlene. You can download the Bridge app so you can see us here in studio or just hear us. You can download the app. It's the Bridge 99 FM, one word, or you can tune in on the good old dial and put 99.1 FM. All right. So I have some very special guests with me tonight in studio to understand what is consent and to hear your views, of course, and to hear theirs. So tonight I have joining me is Rihanna Mills, entrepreneur.
Yes.
Crystal Davis. Yes, I said it. Crystal Davis, final year university student.
Hi guys.
Yes, my daughter is in studio with me, and Rihanna is like another daughter because I know them from the AI. So I hope them not going to shot me and kill me off in here. But I'm prepared because Daniel has the medics, on edge to come pick me up when them shot me. Believe me, they're going to shock you. But we're going to learn from what we're about to talk about. Not everybody understands what consent mean. When you give consent to something, it's allowing or giving somebody permission to do something. And then you have the law. The law has consent. In Jamaica, our consent age is 16 for sex between two persons, right? So 16 years old is the law here in Jamaica where it's permitted for you to have sex with another person. Yeah, legally 16 years old. That doesn't mean that it's right in some people's eyes. Really, I think, 18 to vote, but 16 to have sex. I'm still.
And 18 to drink.
Yeah, 18 to drink, but 16 to have sex.
Yes.
So I think sex in the law, in the eyes of the law, is probably not that serious or not that important or not that, I don't know, but we'll hear from our panel. We'll hear from you at home and at work and wherever you are in your car. You can call in to be a part of the studio conversation. The number to call in is 876-676-4996, or you can send me a 1 minute or less voice note to 876-551-5782. Now, as I said, Crystal and Rihanna, you often hear people talk about sex. And as them say, you millennium children have one different. Sex is so different compared to when I was your age or younger.
Okay.
It was never on an open table. Not because we didn't have internet and certain things back then, but it was taboo. Really, it was
Swept under the rug. Basically.
You'd never speak to your mother about sex, even when you got married.
Wow.
Yes, it was just not discussed.
Yes.
Here is it, I'm here with my daughter. My mother would not be sitting on the other side of me to discuss sex.
Take up a book.
Even when it's not even book time, it's just not something she'd want to have a conversation with me.
Sounds very close to home.
Or your mother don't want to have.
Oh man.
Even at this age.
So now at this age, I guess she's a little bit more open due to the fact that I guess I've already passed that bridge. I've already crossed the bridge. So, there's nothing else that she can do apart from now, really give me advice as to what steps to take next, just be careful. Don't be out there having yourself loose. She knows at this age that I am indeed having sexual encounters, right. But she just warns me, just be safe, don't be around the place, etc. So right. Stuff like that.
Just for the viewers who think you guys look really younger than your age, how old are you, Rihanna?
So I'm 21.
How old are you, Crystal?
I'm 23.
All right. So just to know, I don't have children in here. I have young adults. All right. So it's not like they're going to be saying anything that they shouldn't say because they're not old enough. They are adults. What would you say? What would you say if, let's say you had a little sister and she came to you, she's 10 years old. Yeah, and so Rihanna, I want to have sex like you.
Oh, I actually have a niece that's 11, so that topic is quite,
Coming up.
But I would say to my niece, if she ever was to come up with that discussion, that wait a turn. My mom always told me when I was younger that don't take up big people things, leave big people arguments alone. And I honestly did not understand that until I had my encounter. And when I had my encounter,
Don't want to get to the juicy stuff yet. I'll ask Crystal the same question. You're a little one of your siblings, and you do have a lot. Came to you, one of the 12-year-olds to say, I want to be like you and I want to have sex or whatever she thinks you're doing that seems nice. What advice would you give her?
Something similar. Wait to turn, wait, and your time will come. Don't let anybody force you to do something you don't want to do. And 10 is really a young age to be thinking about that. So I'll say do sports or do something more to occupy your time, because especially if it the period talk comes on too, I would say, listen, you just started the period, there's a whole bunch of life left than thinking about sex.
And
right now.
Trust me, auntie, like peer pressure is real, guys. Don't think it's all fun and games when your friends are having sex and you feel that you have this eager need to be catching up to your friends, or you need to be on the same level as them. Sit down.
When was the first time you heard the word consent that relates to sex? If you have ever heard the word before tonight.
So I've heard the word consent in relation to sex maybe at the age of 14. I mean, I have an older sister, so she was basically talking about it, but it wasn't a conversation that was directly had with me.
Okay. So it wasn't teaching you anything?
No.
Same question, Crystal. What was...
When I was 9, when I had my period. My mom literally, when I had my period, I never get that day. She said, well, this is time and you're a woman now. You're becoming a woman. And we had the sex talk, and he said,
Wow.
consent, age of consent. But he always said, I hope you wait till marriage.
As I have a daughter who was very mature in her development, not in her appearance, because if you look at her now, she still looks younger than her age. And so it was very frightening for her to have her period at 9, which I did too. So it was like, here it is, one from one to the other. And I remember telling her distinctly, Crystal, this is what happens if you do this. You remember that talk, right?
Yes.
You will get pregnant and you're a baby yourself. So being with a boy, yes, you might okay, because this is another thing. Girls might okay the consent. That don't mean it's right.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You could be a 12-year-old and you want to do it.
Yep.
It's not always that the consent is not given to the boy. She could say, okay, I want to have sex. Yeah, I want to have sex. I know of younger than 12-year-old who wants to have sex.
Mm-hmm.
They've seen it. There's some of them have heard it. They've even seen their parents.
Have sex.
They see it on movies. They see things. And it starts with a simple kiss.
Yeah.
And that kid kiss because they're not responsible enough to not know how far to go. And they might take the kiss as
something else
because it is something else to them. Mm-hmm. Your body's telling you something that you're not accustomed to.
Yeah.
I want to let you hear an insert. Not ready for all right. So you both would guide your sisters.
Definitely, yes.
And the guidance is no.
Yes.
Wow. I don't think one of these big, nice, fun sisters.
No, because there's a difference between being fun, and there's a difference between being fun and actually looking out for your loved ones.
Exactly.
Because sex may be a great experience. However, at a young age, it can be traumatic. It can be emotionally distressing.
Especially if they're not educated,
if you're not educated, trust me.
safe sex. What if they go and they don't know how to use a condom properly,
Exactly.
or they don't use a condom at all, and then
And
you're
even
pregnant.
us too still have a lot of things to learn. So,
True.
you know, being able to educate them with certain things, we're not going to be able to give them everything. So, you know, just step by
And
step.
if they get pregnant by the age of 10,
Yeah.
they can die, you know, like, and I don't want that for my sibling or my niece. No, you know, I still think you have time, you know, and by 10 you're in prep school, getting ready to go to high school, like, you should be focusing on pep, like, that's what's keeping
Yes.
up pep, and, you know, just focusing on pep and doing some sports, like
And-
track and field, swimming. Yeah, the
And
next
listen,
Michael Phelps, I like to do
something.
say about something, you know, sex is just not on the table right now.
Yeah. And as
When
Alkaline
you're,
say,
you know, probably 16, age of consent, 16 years. Come back to me, I'll properly
So
That's
you
right.
would allow your 16-year-old sister to have sex, to tell her it's okay?
Okay, I wouldn't be okay with it, but if it's her boy, like if it's a boyfriend and I know for a long time and family, I would
Long
guide.
time she's 16.
If they know each other from like prep school and going up.
You'd allow your daughter to have sex at 16?
No,
okay.
I wouldn't. I'm
You
sorry.
wouldn't.
I wouldn't.
Exactly.
If the drinking age is 18 years of age in Jamaica, I am not allowing you to do anything before that age. I'm not going to be a strict parent where, you know, I'm going to shelter you to the point where when you reach 18, that is when you're going to start. Well, before you're going to do things behind my back, and when you reach 18, you've already done all the things I was trying to shelter you from. No, I'm going to be that fun parent, but at the same time guide you correctly and give you the guidance.
All right. You, Rihanna, you have a little more knowledge on this because you have experienced it for yourself.
Yes.
Can you tell us?
Okay, so basically what it was, I had a pair, you know, my best friend at the time, who she lost her virginity, and I was like, she came back, she told me of her experience, and I'm like, wow, I wonder what that would feel like for myself. I've let me just put this out there. I have excellent parents, I have excellent family members.
course.
However, my mom is that traditional parent you were speaking about at the beginning of the show, where she never thought that she would be needing to have this conversation with her daughter now. My mom never really sheltered me, but she had me in this place where even though I was allowed to do everything that I wanted to do, she had me in this place where you need to know what to do from what not to do. You know, as I mentioned before, still a big people business. But for me, my friend was doing it. Why I shouldn't do it too? Like, I wanted to get this experience for myself, and I already had in my mind who I wanted to take my virginity. So I was like, so I spoke to the person was spot on about it, and we were ready to roll. So the encounter happened. I have no regrets about it, by the way. I have no regrets. However, the only thing that I wish was that I learned, you know, to really have this encounter at a later time, due to the fact that it allowed trust issues to come into play when it came to my parents. I had to limit my outings for a bit. I had to, you know, really be on my P's and Q's at school. I was punished for it. So
Hold on. So your mother found out?
so my mom did indeed find out, because the person kind of left some stuff at my house. So
Like what? Condoms?
no. It was, so my father smokes weed.
Oh.
So it was like some little crumbles of weed, and my mom was like, was your father here? And I'm like, no. She's like, where's this coming from? I'm like, I don't know. And then at the end of the day, I don't know how to lie. Like, lying is not my forte. The guilt will literally come on my face. So I got busted. And once I got busted, she did her research, whatever the case is, and the repercussions came into play. Beating. And, you know, the talk.
Your
That is
mother
when
is
I
a
got the
FBI
talk.
agent. Like
Listen,
myself,
when my mom is ready for that inspection, listen, FBI agent, everything. But I can positively say that it impacted me in a positive way, that situation, as it allowed me to nurture myself. It allowed me to become a better version of myself, to understand what my mother actually meant as by wait a turn, still to big people business, still to big people arguments, it is not for you. And that allowed me to slow down my sexual encounters. It allowed me to even understand more that it's not everybody supposed to get your front. And that is good. Like, for me, that is something that I appreciate learning, because I'm very emotionally attached when it comes on to that. And I just cannot bounce around. So yeah, it allowed me, it impacted me in a negative and positive way.
Right, because as you said, it's not that you regret doing it, but you regret doing it at that age.
That age, yes. I had my pregnancy scare, okay? And I just...
That's what I was going to ask you next. How
Yes.
did you handle, after doing this, 5 seconds of fun, what happens next in your mind?
So what happens next, you know, the pain comes after.
No, not in the literal sense.
I
But
know, but I'm just saying, you know, the pain comes after, but not just pain in terms of the literal sense, but the pregnancy scare. So the pregnancy scare came with...
Hold on, did you use a condom?
So at the beginning, yes. However, going into it, no. Because the it actually popped.
Break,
Yeah, it
right?
broke. So yeah. And you know, it was anyways, but the pregnancy scare basically put me into an emotional state where I was wondering, is this person going to be a part of my life? Is this person going to help me to raise this child if I do have this child? If there is a child,
Right.
you know, am I going to have the finances to take care of this child? Firstly, how am I going to tell my mother, out of all people, that I am pregnant, if I am pregnant?
Right. You're just having the possibilities.
So it's like, because my mom always told me, get pregnant early, you got to find your own way, because this is not the house for it. I raised you as a decent child, so you going out doing all these things that you want to do, I love you, but from a distance, because you want to take up big people things. Big people pay them own rent, big people have their own finances, and they do their things on their own. So as much as my mom loves me, you know, I don't think she would abandon me, but it's like, you need to learn a lesson from
I
this.
have a question. At that time, did you know about
Talking to me.
Did you know about contraceptives at 50?
At the time, no. Because as I mentioned before, I have a traditional mother. Woo, sorry.
Not like me, who
Yeah.
tells she every
So I have a
5
traditional
minutes.
mother. When I had my period, the discussion was not about sex. It was about, yes, you know, you have pills for pain. You have, you know, those
Teachers
kind
do
of
that,
stuff.
parents,
Because
stuff
my
like
mom
that.
would not expect me to, you know, be doing any of those stuff. But friend and company, be careful.
Crystal, you, on the other hand, come out of a lion's den
Yes.
in a good way.
In a good way, yes.
Because
Yes.
you can talk.
Well, a lot of people know our relationship and we're very, very close. But I think at the age, even before 16, you come home. Are you having sex? Are you having sex? Like, you questioned me.
Yeah, because
A
I didn't
lot.
want to. Parents,
Are you having sex? And I'm
parents,
like,
not that I didn't trust her or anything, but they were always with boys.
yeah, that's
And I
true.
would be there and I would leave them up. So sometimes if I took them to a party where they all be, I'll
Color-coded,
just try
for
to keep it
example.
into her. I wouldn't ask you at 16 if you had sex. No, I'd always say, make sure you don't.
Yes,
Yeah,
make sure I
not-
don't have sex. But I think when I reached the age of 18, you know, that's when the conversation was more, and she was like, then we started saying, listen, this time I want you to get a boyfriend. And
No, you had a boyfriend and I
I had a
said,
boyfriend, yes.
what can happen?
What
No.
can happen if you have sex? Are you guys thinking about sex? Do you guys talk about sex? And I'm like, yeah, do you want to have sex? I wasn't ready at the time. I wasn't ready, and he was okay with that. And then when I got to 19, he asked, are you having sex? I said, no. He said, are you sure? And he questioned me over and over, and I said, no.
People, the reason come, me not take no grand picnic. She have
Like
an
I said,
education
and-
to complete.
And she knew if I was lying or not. So when she saw me, I said, okay, no problem, go upstairs. 20, he asked again. I said, no. He said, are you sure? She just like, she looked at it, she speaks again, and she's like, okay, go. Because she knew I wasn't lying. 20.
No, guys, let me give you a story. So I took her to go to the doctor.
Oh yes.
Just for the
gynecologist. Oh my God.
And the doctor was like, no, our hymen is intact. And I went to the Pandora store.
I got me a check.
And bought a lot of gifts because at 20, I felt proud that, I mean, I didn't coop her up. She was allowed to party. She was allowed to have her boyfriend and, you know, so continue. Yeah.
So when I got to the age of 21, I went to her and I said, Mommy, no, I didn't even I said, Mommy, I'm going to have sex. That's what I said. I said, I'm going to have sex.
She did.
She like, her heart, you know, like that shock when you get in your heart, like, you faint, like, oh my God.
I died and came
like,
back.
She was like, I'm dreaming. I said, Mommy, are you okay? She says, what do you mean you want to have sex? I said, I'm ready. I want to have sex. And I said, are you sure? You sure you don't want to wait till marriage? I said, no, Mommy, he's the one. I'm said to you. I'm going to live the rest of our life together. We're going to have a kid. We're going to do this. And she's just like, okay. Then she gave me the condom and she made me go and, you know, came back and we talked about it. Like, it was like, oh my God. Then she asked me, what's your favorite position? And
Mercy God.
it was, trust me, it was a whole conversation. Like, what's your favorite sex position?
Yes, I was trying to figure out what is happening with this my little baby who is now an adult, been an adult from she's 18. And it's just to be that I don't care who don't want to be friends with their children. I'm happy that she's my best friend. Mm-hmm. I'm happy that if she says something to me, I can tell you that that's what it is. And I'm happy that if I tell her something that she might hear and ask me, if I say to her, she know it's the truth. Because when I say, look here, girl, I did that, move on from it. You know? And with her, 23 is an adult, but this is still my baby. Mm-hmm. It's not like I have another child or two more somewhere to gear. This is it. So, you know, I don't want her to think because she's 23 or 21, it's okay. She has an agenda, school, to complete school. And I'm saying, Crystal, although you're an adult, you still have to be mindful. So every month, parents, don't take on this. Every month, may I search the garbage. Mm-hmm. Yes, may I look for the pot, because any month, me not see me have a stroke.
No, she asked a lot. She asked, did the period come this month? Yes. Yes, Mommy. Yes, it did. Then, like, she was on it. And then I asked her, did I ask for contraceptives?
No, you said if anything, let's take you to the doctor,
yes.
You know, and I said, all right, we'll go, but I really don't want to carry no, but, you know, how did you feel though? Did you think you waited the right age, or you know?
Yes and no. Yes, in terms of I thought the person I was, you know, encountered with, we were in love, I believed, and it was my first real boyfriend, the one that, you know, you liked and everyone around you liked. My whole family met him and I'm like, okay, I know, I had the pictures in my head, create little families and stuff like that. But then when we end this thing, I'm like, oh, wow, okay.
So did you regret?
No.
Okay.
I don't regret, no.
But you're happy you waited till the age you did?
Yes, I am very happy. Yes.
I just have one thing to say. I really love the relationship between the two of you because it now reminds me of the relationship my mom and I now have. Right. So I'm grateful that, you know, even though at that young age I had to learn on my own the hard way, you know, my mom and I are able to now have the discussions. I have a sister that is, she will come in my room, she will sit down, all right, you know, this happened today, you know, and we will both have conversations about each other's sex life. That's the relationship my sister and I have. Yeah. But now since I'm in my adulthood, it's been a great experience and I'm able to freely talk to my parents.
And not only, you know, because the fact that you venture that road, that's when they should have been there with you.
Well, they were after the incident happened because my mom would sit down and then that is when she decided to, you know, really speak to me about it because, you know, she's like, why would they do this? I'm like, nobody really spoke to me about it. So, you know, I found out on my own. And
which was the wrong way.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, she corrected herself. My mom was always working. She's always working to ensure that my sister and I are provided for. We have never had to be left out of anything at all. So, you know, my sister was always going to school. So it was just pretty much me alone at the time. However, you know, now I can say, I'm grateful for the relationship that I now have with my mom and my sister. I'm able to freely talk to them and just do what I can. You know, my father now, on the other hand, he's like,
Oh
just
no.
do what you're doing.
I hope you.
You's a big woman. Just do what you're doing. You know, I have that type of
She's
father.
still a baby. All right, we're gonna listen to some. We're gonna go to a break. We're gonna take a break from Sex on the Bridge, and I hope you're staying true, and to hear more from the young people. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the bridge. Yes, Sex on the Bridge with me, the original dancehall queen. And in studio, I do have two beautiful young ladies, Crystal and Rihanna, to help us to understand, consent of, sexual consent. So we're gonna throw to some WhatsApp voice note. Won't you listen?
Okay, that's a loaded question. First, I want to say that the answers are subjective to each household and how each person has
Not
been
hearing.
brought up. Making the transition from that preteen or teenager
hearing.
to a young adult is awkward for everyone, but it is also impacted greatly by how you're prepared for it by your home life. And yeah, as I say, brought up safe. I had sex at 17. I don't think that the age of consent from 16, 15 needs to be disturbed. I'm just ballparking it because I don't quite remember what the age of consent actually is. But I do think that having a certain level of sexual education before you reach a certain age will allow you to make that decision when it comes about, like if you're ready to have sex. So I think that 16, 15, I personally, from my experience, would have been ready to make that decision because I would have been educated to a certain point to know what sex is. And that is the most important part about this whole conversation. I think that people don't really necessarily mean the same thing when they say sex. Is it penetration? Is it oral? Is it physical touching with nudity? Is it, I think it's really important that sexual education is put forward, or defining sex is clear, so that
All right. Well, definitely. She had a lot of pointers there, because sometimes we don't think, especially in Jamaica, that oral sex is sex. You agree?
I think
It is sex,
I
but-
think it is
Okay.
sex. I think it is sex.
Well, oral sex,
Once you're having some form of fluids coming from your body, it's sex. It is sex. No, seriously, it's sex.
I never thought of it that way though.
I
just-
think of it that way.
The only thing I never saw as non-sexual really would be like it was sexual but nothing to say was kissing, that
Yeah.
was like the most innocent thing.
Yeah.
But anything apart from that, blow job or fingering or foreplay was like
Any form of foreplay
was like
is a
okay,
part of
it's a
sex.
part of sex.
It is what leads up to the actual action.
To the
Yes.
penetration.
Yes.
Because-
All right. We have another voice note. Please listen.
I did wait until the age of consent to have sex, but that meant that I was still in high school at the time. And I will say that it was extremely time consuming, both mentally and physically, meaning that it's something that I began to think about, very often. And so it really did take up a lot of my time during that period of still being in high school. So I will say that if I was supposed to do it any different, I would wait at least till I graduated so that, that focus could still be there. But ultimately, I would say to anyone to try their absolute best to wait until the age of consent or even later, because it's definitely something to think about, and it can really take a toll on you as you're sharing yourself with somebody else. But as long as you are both mentally and physically prepared at least the age of consent or later, then go for it.
And I want to just speak on that as what she says, and we've been saying all night. Sex, although the age of consent is 16, I don't think a 16-year-old is equipped to handle what comes with sex. Sex has a real large responsibility,
But what?
especially if you're emotional and don't understand the difference between putting in the emotion from the upper part of your body to the lower part.
Lower part,
But what
yes.
I don't understand is at 16, I know we're all doing sexy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's after the exam. I don't know if it's stress that's causing that. Like y'all need to release some exam stress.
The build up in your back, as they would say.
No, but I don't know. But like, I don't know. I don't know if all are doing it after. If it's after sexy, I would still hope you pray.
Celebration.
Yeah, but I don't think that's the best way to celebrate. Still, but if it's before that, how? Like, don't y'all?
All right, I want to welcome to the conversation Saint Ashley, gender studies and specialist, to the conversation. I hope she was hearing us. Oh, good night, Saint. Hello.
Hello, I'm not sure if the audio is good on your side.
I'm hearing you
fine.
clearly
Have a
now.
good day.
Good night to
Okay,
you.
good. Hi.
And
How
welcome
are
to
you?
Sex on the Bridge with me, of course,
Thanks for
dancehall
having
queen
me.
Carlene. And in studio, we have Crystal Davis and Rihanna Mills.
Okay, great. Hi everyone. Thanks for having me. My camera's gonna stay off only because it's very dark over here. So
I hear
that's fine. I
crickets.
just
Is
want to make sure
country
the
there?
audio is great. I actually live in St. James. Yeah, I live up in the hills.
Yes, I hear the crickets.
Yeah, there are indeed crickets. Um, yeah, so I actually wanted to take maybe like a few minutes, maybe two or three, just to pivot back to the notion of what we mean when we talk about consent
Yes.
and what it is that we're really scared about when we analyze what the age of consent is.
Okay.
So I do agree that I think it is somewhat um, both concerning and confusing that you can't drink until you're 18, you can't drive until you're 18, you can't
Can't
vote
vote
until you're 18,
in
but you can
Jamaica.
have sex at 16.
Right, in Jamaica.
So, and it's specifically about sex. So I think that when parents and also, people in general, as well as people that are coming up on the age of consent, when people are concerned about the fact that the age of consent seems lower than these other ages, and it seems to be an age when you're impressionable, you're susceptible to peer pressure. If you're that kind of person, you are experiencing a lot of mental and emotional and physical changes for the first time, and it's coming at a time when there's a lot of upheaval, and I think all this upheaval happening at the same time makes people very liable to get taken advantage of. Um, so I think it's important to highlight that when we talk about consent and we talk about people having sex at a certain age, it should be totally fine for 16-year-olds to have sex with one another. And I think that's what's important about consent. Like when we talk about the fact that it's nerve wracking to have the idea that 16-year-olds are allowed to have sex, we're talking about the fact that the being the legal age of majority for sexual intercourse puts you in a group of people that can span from then, 16 years old up until about like 60 or 70. And what we're concerned about is, well, even before 16, when people are considering having sex, or when they're thinking about having sex, or when they are desiring to have sex and figuring out what to do with that desire, a lot of the times when people talk about a lack of consent, they don't realize how many situations can make consent a gray area. So in gender, we tend to highlight consent as being multifaceted. It is enthusiastic, it is entirely willful, and it is ongoing. So enthusiastic meaning, if you and somebody are getting hot and heavy and you're asking them, do you want to take this further? And they're hemming and hawing. If they seem unsure, take it as a no. Consent should be enthusiastic. It should not be, maybe, I guess, I don't really want to, but I will if you want to. All of these things are gray areas of consent that can result in somebody being harmed. The second thing consent should be is willful. You should not be coerced into giving your consent. You should never be put in a situation where you feel like you might as well say yes. Or you should never feel like you are in a situation where it's better for you or safer for you to say yes. You basically, a yes is not a yes if you don't have the safe option of saying no. So let's say you're, engaging with somebody physically, you guys are in a secluded location, and they want to take that physical experience further. Because I'm also of the opinion that Rihanna shares, which is that all kinds of genital touching count as sex. It's not just penetration. If there are bodily fluids being exchanged, if if there's genital touching, if there's anything with the intent of arousal, that's a sexual encounter. And the important part of that is to remember that consent has to be ongoing. So yeah, you can consent to kissing, you can consent to heavy petting, touching with hands, you can even
Right.
consent to oral, and if when it gets right up to the time of penetration somebody says no, then it's still no. It doesn't matter what you've done
And it's
before. You
even
can't
no
say,
to
well,
kissing. No is no.
right. It doesn't even if it's can I hold your hand and you say no, it's no.
Yes, no.
Some people seem to think that there are certain activities that are too innocent for consent. Like, oh, we can definitely do this. It's not that serious. And people think consent is only sexual, and people also think sex is only penetrative.
Drinking, smoking. They'll go
Right.
out with a partner and he's telling or she's telling, have a drink. And no, I don't want to drink, but they still force it on them till, they're giving on the peer pressure to have a drink, which also is wrong.
Yeah, you'll hear things like, "Oh, you're no fun," or
Yeah.
Yeah.
"You just have brought the
Yeah,
vibes,
but
dog."
yeah.
And
Because
sometimes as the specialist is saying, it leads from one no to a force yes. Continue.
Right. And I think a lot of the times when we talk about peer pressure and when we talk about the effect that that has on altering people's consent, we are talking about coercion. And coercion isn't necessarily only done by the other person in the sexual encounter. It's also done by your friends. It's
Yes.
also done by the wider society who tells you that if you've been in a relationship with this person for X amount of time, the natural progression is to have sex. And it's like, no, that's not true. There are no concrete rules for what you need to do with somebody at any stage. There are no concrete rules for what the changing of the stages might look like, which is why it's really important that when we talk about consent and we talk about even the ways that the age of consent and the notion of teenagers having sex is engaged societally, I would like to refer to what the listener in the first voice note said, where they were
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, every situation is different. Um, as a personal anecdote, I went to multiple all girls schools, and in this is a space where people are having sex that is not necessarily heterosexual sex.
Right.
And a lot of the times, yeah, people only think of heterosexual
Uh,
penetrative sex as sex.
sex.
So
True.
then when you talk about, the age of consent and what age people should be when they're having sex, and arguments against teenagers having sex very young. We're thinking about things like pregnancy and responsibility and what might happen. But I think it's important to acknowledge that all sex does not look like sex that results in pregnancy.
True.
It's also important that when we talk about consent and when we talk about sex and we talk about the sex teenagers are having, it is important that we don't assume that all teenagers are having a certain experience. And I think it is the assumption that all teenagers are having a certain experience that even prevents us from looking at non heterosexual experiences of intimate partner violence, where you think that, intimate partner violence happens or even violations of consent happen between a man and a woman or between a boy and a girl.
Or between a girl and a girl and a boy and a boy.
Right. And all of these things can look like violence, all of these things can look like coercion, all of these things can look like a lack of consent, which is why it is the position of most people that do gender work that sexual education and things like reproductive justice are extremely intertwined. So, the idea that your mother is like, most of us grew up with a mom that was like, oh my God, I don't know what you're going to do, but it is with the sense that one, she does not want you to have this baby, but two, she also wouldn't want you to terminate the pregnancy. And I think it puts people who were already in the position of, being societally vulnerable by being teenagers. No matter how sexually active you are, if you are a teenager, you are still a minor, and that does put you in an extremely vulnerable position legally. And it is important to acknowledge that a lack of sexual education does lead to misinformation about what consent looks like. And it also leads to a lack of resources for the negative experiences that may come up. And these experiences are also oftentimes traumatic, that may come up because people do not have the necessary education to know what to do in sexual situations. People don't have the knowledge to know that they can demand to use a condom.
Right.
People don't have the knowledge to know that, if you consented to sex with a condom and your sexual partner removes that condom during sex, that is also a violation of your consent.
All right. So you're okay with the law giving consent being legal at 16. But what happens if the person is 14, 13, 12? Are you okay with that?
It is the position of not only people that work in gender, but also anybody that has like a concrete understanding of how power dynamics work, that 12, 13-year-olds cannot consent to sex.
Right, they cannot.
Consent has to be informed. Like, they cannot consent legally, and two, they are not in the societal position to consent to sex.
Right.
The position of the child, minors are so disenfranchised by nature of legality and by nature of being very, very easily taken advantage of because they don't have financial independence, because they don't have the empowerment to assert themselves socially. So when things happen to them, and this especially becomes true if we look at it through a gender lens where, you know, young women, teenage girls, even young adult women are socialized with the idea that sex is something that happens to them and it's not something they partake in, where, young boys are aggressors and young girls are people that are taken advantage of. I think it's important that we highlight that, yeah, somebody under 16 cannot legally consent to sex, nor I personally do not think they have an understanding of the gravity of their decisions.
All
And
right.
that becomes, go
Could
ahead.
could you like explain to the listeners and myself and the young ladies in the studio what are some of the unconsent sexual advance once you're
Okay,
legal?
for example, yeah, okay, so it's also really important to lead with the definition that sex has to be consensual.
Right.
There's no such thing as non-consensual sex.
Exactly.
Sexual encounters that take place without consent are automatically rape.
Right.
Rape is defined as a lack of consent. So yeah, in that same way, which is why even the definition of something like statutory rape exists, which is like this person could not legally have consented. They are not in a position in their lives to be well informed enough or to have the mental or emotional wherewithal to handle sexual encounters of that are considered to be of a nature that are more advanced.
And
So,
do you
your 12-year-old probably goes to high school and has their first kiss or whatever. We are not looking at that through the same lens of penetrative sex. And I think it's important that we make that separation because I do think teenagers are allowed to explore things like desire and are allowed to explore things like their hormones, but I do not think that should put them in unsafe situations.
do you know if it's fact that anal sex is not considered rape even if the person is not consent to do anal sex? Let's say a man has sex with another man or a
I'm sorry,
girl.
could you please repeat that? I think the connection just a bit. Can you tell me that again, please?
Anal sex. Consent to not having anal sex is not considered rape because it's anal sex.
Right, and that goes back to a lot of colonialist ideas about what should be about what adult people should be allowed to do. So yeah, she's right, but
Male
it's
or
also a
female?
little more
Male,
complex
male
than
and
that.
male and
So
female.
because legally, anal sex is criminalized under the Buggery law, the idea that people can't even engage in consensual anal sex. So because of that, yeah, rape can happen in ways that do not look like heterosexual paradigms of violence. And then those people have no method of legal recourse. People that experience violence in this way have no way of saying I was harmed. They have no way of saying my consent was violated because, well, of the shame and stigma attached to even consensual anal sex, let alone things like that rape that looks like that specifically.
What would you say to young male or female who is out there thinking, do I have to have sex?
I would tell them that no, they don't have to have sex. You don't. You actively do not have to do anything you don't want to do. Um, Whether that comes at the coercion of your friends and of the coercion of wider society that's saying, well, and I think it's important to highlight that even when you become an adult, once you're like over 18, people look at you oddly if you haven't had sex. Like 18, 19, 20, it becomes a thing where somebody's like, oh my gosh, you're a virgin, or you're uptight, or you're stuck up about it, or you're taking it too personally. So yeah, I think it benefits everybody to know that they do not have to have sex. You don't have to have casual sex. You don't even have to have sex with people with whom you are in a relationship. The only requirement to have sex is that you are of legal age and that you are wholeheartedly consenting. You don't owe sex to anybody. You do not owe sexual encounters to anybody. You do not even owe the completion of a sexual encounter to anybody. You can start having sex and then decide to stop, and even in the middle, no still means no. And I think it's important that we look at consent widely, that we look at consent as something that is shifting, something that is ongoing, as well as affirming consent. You know, you can stop in the middle of sex and go, hey, is that okay? Or are you sure you still want to do this? Are you having a good time? All of these are methods of normalizing consent in our intimate spaces.
All right, do you think early sex and gender based violence or abortion is based on that?
I'm sorry, come again? I don't think I understand the question. Are you asking me if I think gender based violence and abortions are a
If it
result
has
of
anything
people having
right with
sex?
early sex?
Okay, here's the thing. When we use phrases like early sex, what happens is we are giving privilege to a situation that does not exist.
No,
So
I'm
when we
talking
say
about
something like
consensual
early
sex,
sex,
16 years old and up. Still early.
yeah, okay, okay, all right, okay. If we're talking about after the legal age, then
Yes.
okay, yeah. I do agree that if you're a minor, regardless of the fact that the legal age of consent happens when you are a minor, it is still quite questionable for you to be not necessarily engaging sex, but in situations that could make you unsafe. So I do think that violations of consent are what lead to things like unsafe abortions and gender-based violence. Because when young girls who are of the age of consent, who are 16, 17, when teenagers are preyed upon by adults who are pursuing them because they are the age of consent, and that adult cannot legally experience recourse or reprimand because technically the person is legal, regardless of the fact that they're a minor. I think that is where a lot of this gray area comes from. The fact that the age of consent happens when you're a minor opens minors up to so much violence from people older than them, from people in different situations, from people that have different relations to power than they do, from people that they do not feel like they can say no to.
And
So
can
I
you
do think that that leads to getting into relationships where the power dynamic is so uneven that it does turn into situations that engender violence.
could you explain for who don't know what is gender based violence?
Okay, so gender-based violence is any kind of violence, and violence isn't always physical. It can be mental, it can be emotional, it can be psychological. Um, it is any kind of violence that is happening to you because of your gender experience. So a lot of the times when we talk about gender-based violence, we are talking about violence that happens to women and girls at the hands of men. But
Okay.
it's important to highlight that gender-based violence does not only happen in intimate partner relationships, and it does not only happen in a male to female sort of way. People being punished for not living their lives in a way that align with what people expect of their gender is gender-based violence. When people look at a woman who chooses not to have children and they shame her and they say she's selfish or she's callous or she's unfeeling or she is somehow less of a woman, that is an act of verbal and emotional gender-based violence. That woman is experiencing violence because of assumptions people are making about her and her gender.
All right. Well, I hope my listeners and my studio audience learned or understood or got some information from her. I want to thank you so much, Saint Ashley, gender studies and specialist. I'm going to take a break. Oh, could you tell me how somebody could get in touch with you, your organization that you represent, and how you can get in touch with it?
Okay, great. So We Change is we try our very best to be as accessible as possible. So our site is wechangejamaica.com. There you will find studies we've done. You'll find methods of contacting us. You'll find out how to get involved. You'll find out how to volunteer and to benefit from the programs that we institute on a regular basis.
Okay.
Our email and our Instagram are both WeChangeJA. We are invested in things like abortion activism. We're invested in experiences of gender liberation for people of marginalized genders, of various marginalized genders, including transgender and intersex people. We're also invested in things like public education and mutual aid, and occupying spaces like this is a big part of what we hope that our relation to the wider public is. So people could follow up on that by, following our Instagram, committing to learning more about gender as it functions, as opposed to, the way we've been told it's supposed to function, understanding things like reproductive justice.
Okay.
And I think that a commitment to learning and a commitment to justice is really what we do at We Change.
All right. I want to thank you so much for coming on Sex on the Bridge, and I do hope you'll come back when I need you. So thank you so very much. On that note, we're going to take a break from Sex on the Bridge. We'll be right back. Yes, yes, yes. Welcome back to Sex on the Bridge. Yes, the Bridge 99 FM. You can always download the app to hear the show, see the show, and be a part of the show. To call in 876-676-4996 or send less than a minute WhatsApp voice note to 876-551-5782. Remember, we have some giveaways for Share Candyland Party on the 21st of October, right? So I'm not joining in. I just have the women. Now I have the men. Oh, let you hear some voice note because people have been sending them in. Let me let you hear. You can listen.
So this is why I tell you guys to wait until a later age to start participating in sexual encounters. Now, it may seem like all fun and games because our peers are losing their virginities and having their own sexual encounters, and we feel this eager need to catch up to them or to be on their level. No. As someone who has had an early teenage sexual encounter, I faced a pregnancy scare, I faced being reprimanded by my parents, and I faced emotional distress. Having this pregnancy scare made me wonder whether this person is going to actually be a part of my life, whether he is going to help me financially or just disappear and mess around with other females. If, we were both ready for this situation, if I'm going to be able to financially provide for this child, and how am I going to tell my parents? Now, being reprimanded by my parents, I, of course, had my beating and had trust issues come along with it. It was a little harder for me to go to certain places. After a while, after I gained back the trust of my parents, I was able to go about freely and do what I wanted to do in my childly manner. I found back myself, I found back my age paper, and I stopped participating in sexual activities until I reached an age where I felt I was ready, and if anything was to happen, then I would be able to provide for that child. I would be able to face the encounters that comes with having sexual encounters.
I was it was a very unpleasant experience for so longer. I was it was a very unpleasant experience for me. But if I had to put an age to that, I'd maybe say 19. Just if I had to. But where consent is concerned, I'd say that when an individual is ready, they should talk to their peers, not just their peers, but also seek information from older persons. If they have older persons they can talk to, ask questions about their experiences, and the research for themselves as well. And also not only to prepare physically, but also make sure that you're in the right headspace, you have the right mental capacity to engage in such activities, because it's a decision that will weigh on you, not just in that moment, but forever. So you want to make sure that you'll have no regrets about that decision. So when should an individual be ready to give consent? As long as they do their research and as long as they think they're mentally prepared and at the right mental capacity.
Welcome back to Sex on the Bridge. Yes, you heard the voice notes. And in studio with me right now, I have Walter J. Davis, Sports Management and Specialist. And I have Mr. Fennell, Peer Educator and Children First Agency, and a student at the University of the West Indies. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I also, via Zoom, I have my soon become part of the show, my doctor, Dr. Jones. I want to welcome Dr. Jones to the show. He's a medical doctor and the CEO of Comfy Home Medical Service. So welcome to the conversation. Yes, he looks like a baby,
Hey,
but he's actually old enough. You heard the callers, you heard the messages.
right, right.
I don't know if Dr. Jones, you heard the callers and the guest that was here earlier on, right?
Right, yeah, I was listening for the majority of it.
All right, tell me some of your early sexual experience.
For me, I remember when I was 17, and I think that's about when most of my urges started to happen. And as I was talking to Elias from before, I think for me it was a little bit easier because when I got to the age of about 14, I think my maturity started to ripen a little bit more. So I sort of had a sense of what was adult from then. So I felt I was ready at that particular point in time, and there was no risk or gray areas involved. So I was and at 17, you go in it, and you go in it because not only the hormones are right, but of course you want to see what this thing is all about and what is the hype behind all of this. So that was my experience at 17, and looking back now, I can understand why that feeling is there for especially boys at that age.
But it was you were lawfully consented, right?
Correct.
I want to ask, could you pronounce your name, please?
Elias.
Elias.
Right.
I think some rasta would have down in the back. Without betraying anyone's privacy, could you tell us some of the stories you would have heard from some of the boys in the group?
Okay, well, I know I work with young people, so I know some of them would have had sexual experiences from a very, very tender age. You know, I was working with somebody last night with a resume, you know, and he, you know, had his first sexual encounter at 13. You know, I was talking to him about it, you know, to kind of prepare myself to come on the show and talk about it, you know. So some persons really start early, you know. I was kind of late bloomer, you know, 17 years old. Most of my friends them gone out the gates from long time, you know. So I was kind of late bloomer. However, I think majority of the times is the pressure coming from outside that cause us to want to get sexually involved with people. Sometimes we don't even have an affection for them, but just because, you know, daddy pressure you for have sex. You know much young men, their main pressure to have sex is their own father. You know, and I can see that with the young people that I work with, you know, and even other men in the community. They must say, yo, oh, you not have sex yet. Oh, I'm not see her bring in a girl. You know, what go on. You get me? I say, and as a young man who care about other people's opinions about you, I mean, you can imagine the kind of pressure that brings down on you, and then know there's other people, you know, them are, you know, them making progress, you know, them are bringing in girls and all of these things. So yeah, I go on to, you know, step up and do something, you know, anything to, you know, prove.
Be a part of it.
Right.
And you see how different it is for women.
Yeah,
and
man.
Men. No,
that's
at 21, I wish she had waited till 31. So it's always gonna be different for the females.
Right.
A man saying to his 17-year-old son, go have sex, in a bossy dogs. I don't know of any mother that would want her 17-year-old to go and have sex.
Yeah, man, if you bring home a girl when you're 12 years old, man, you get only rating. You get me? So that's one of the differences between men and women. If you bring home a girl early, you start have sex, you're a top man.
Yeah.
Straight.
I think
you're on the road.
One of the things that, especially with young boys now in Jamaica, the pressure is exceedingly high. It is very hard to be a man in Jamaica now. You're under so much pressure from not only your peers, and especially in the demographic we live in, dependent on where you come from in Jamaica,
Right.
the influence is stronger on you because you see all of this happening in your community. From you grow up and you're a little bit, you see your brother at 14, your brother at 15, and them have 2 girls, 3 girls, 4 girls, and boy, people in the community say, what happened to you?
And in certain garrison, if you're 21 as a man and don't have any kids,
Yeah, man.
you're bossy, you're bored,
big problem.
you're this, you're that.
that.
I want to ask Dr. Jones. Dr. Jones, hello?
Hey, what's up? What's going on?
Yeah. What are some of the experiences you have gotten, especially from young people, you know, that come to you and say, well, I want to have sex or I don't want to have sex?
Well, I mean, patients do come. I mean, even not just as a doctor, but as a, you know, as a role model, because they're a medical practitioner. So, you know, the younger ones naturally look up to you and they want to share certain experiences. They want to ask you your advice. They want to know, even though, you know, as you're a doctor, they want to know, doc, what was your personal experience like? Stuff like that. I have never really gotten a situation or a scenario where I have never been, what I should say, prompt to really give them guidance as is or as needed. I remember one particular case, because I tell you, frankly, I'm from Montego Bay, St. James. That's where I was born and raised, basically. So when I do go back there, and when I'm around those type of persons that I normally grew up with, are the younger ones from a particular community, you know, they'll come to me and say, boy, doc, you know, say, talk to a girl last night and rate it, and really and truly want to know if you think we can make the movie as yet, or how soon is the right time, you know, how we approach the girl. And, you know, frankly, given it coming from that setting, if I say to them, say, here what, just cool, man, just wait. I say, boy, that not pre-rec, man. That that not have the right meditation, man. But it's as if they wanted to tell them, say, here what, yeah, man, do this. Next time, try this. Next time, pull this card. Maybe I might get through. That's what they want to hear. But as sorry, I don't recall his name. The gentleman in the jersey top fitted.
Walter.
He was saying, right. Yeah, Walter. Walter was saying that pressure in Jamaica is exceedingly high, for men to be men in today's day and age. I mean, a young boy can be very, very, very shy or reserved or reluctant to even engage in any form of sexual encounter, any form of interpersonal close space with a female or opposite gender. But just because he's around his friends, or just because his friends are so-called top men or shatters or done that, or them run school, or them run wherever them do. You understand? Them feel as if say, boy, here what, I have to try. And even trying, if they feel, sometimes they feel so uncomfortable doing it. And you can tell. Because sometimes you as the big man in the situation, you're looking at them trying something, and you can tell, without a doubt, he's so uncomfortable. But as a doctor, yes, I've been in many situations where people do share their concerns, the younger ones, and I'm always there to try and talk and counsel and help them as best as possible.
And as a doctor, from the medical side of it, is early sex damaging to both men and women? So, like you've heard, I don't know if you know or heard, but they'll tell you about cervical cancer in the female, starting with multiple partners, starting having sex too early, getting STDs, STIs. Could you elaborate on that?
All right. So having early sex, and again, early sex, as what was her name? The lady before who had spoken.
Before 16.
She mentioned, right, early is really and truly a relative term. If we're talking legally, 16 and above. Early
talking still
sex,
teenager up to 19. Any age up to 19.
Right, teenage. The reason why I want to really actually specify is because as a doctor, I've seen a 12-year-old who was pregnant before.
Yes.
So that's why I want to specify with you. But you're extremely right. Early pregnancy, sorry, not early pregnancy, but early sexual intercourse, what that does is it puts at risk for so much. Not necessarily physical damage per se or physical changes to the body, but what it does is it puts you at risk for STDs, infectious diseases. You mentioned one such as HPV. HPV is really the major cause of cervical cancer. But what happens is that it's not to say that, hey, you're so unlucky that the first time you have sex, oh geez, you have cervical cancer, or hey, you contract HPV. No, not necessarily that. But the fact that you began so early, the tendency to want to continue sometimes, So you start being exposed to 2, 3, 4, and by the time you reach 20, the numbers might reach 10, God forbid, But that really and truly puts you at risk for that. There is also, and I always want to say this, early sex is not just the physical changes that occur, but there's psychosocial as well. When you're that young, really and truly, it is thought scientifically that the decision-making aspect of the brain is not yet fully developed. And it puts you through an entire series of trying to make sense of your emotions, trying to make sense of the decisions that you're going to make. It's like you're in a frenzy. It's like you're in a dark room, thoughts running all around, then necessarily know or sure of what you need to do, right? So psychosocial affecting them in a sense. It affects the way that they approach the future, affects them in school, affects their development overall. And not even that. If you want to talk about early sex, I think you should entertain having early pregnancy. You should start thinking about that, having that discussion as well. And early pregnancy, really and truly, is what we call high-risk pregnancy too. So there's a list of things that we can talk about with early pregnancy.
And early abortions. Is it what is that
and
aside?
early abortions, right? Right. So even that, you find that overwhelmingly, if you want to use statin, for example, in terms of to be objective in terms of our statistics, right? Up to date, the latest record shows that 18% of the, new mothers, right, are teenage pregnancies. And 18% is a large fraction.
Yes.
right?
Children having children.
That's a large
Yes.
fraction, right?
How?
And
Go ahead. Go
that
ahead.
is that is excluding those who have sought out abortion, right?
And is it something you would recommend? Abortion to
Um,
young teenagers or even young adults?
well, as a medical practitioner, you know,
You're putting the young man on the spot, man.
yeah. So no, but the truth of the matter is, it's illegal in the country. It's illegal.
Right.
There are campaigns internationally about it being accepted. We have not yet reached that platform in Jamaica as to where we're going to decide as whether or not we're going to make it legal or not. As a medical practitioner, I can only say that, you know, we are against doing abortion.
Does unsafe abortion does lead to infertility or can?
There is a high risk or high correlation because what happens, as mentioned before, it's illegal. So young girls who become pregnant, early pregnancy, they seek out, you know, they just want to get it done with. They just want to get it over with. And it leads them to all kind of dark places, dark corners, trying different things just to get rid of this so-called nightmare, right? And yes, if it's done, what I should say, certain procedures that can be done can lead to complications such as infertility. It's damaging the structures. Even the lining of your uterus is so important for pregnancy. Certain procedures where they use even, I don't know if you saw a movie once. I don't remember. When I was a child, I watched a movie where this young girl, Jamaican movie, she was about 15 or something. She got pregnant and she went into the shower and she literally used like a metal rod, placed it up in her and tried to scrape as much as she could just to bleed, right? I hope I'm not being too graphic.
No, it's fact. So it happens.
Right. But these things do happen. But so that's what I'm saying. You can imagine a little girl just so frustrated, so confused, and just goes back to her decision making, you know, to try something of that sort, just to correct whatever mistake she has made.
Because she did what she shouldn't do. How is your take on what he says?
I think one of the major outside of the clinical side, one of the major things is that we're finding that children are having children. And it's not just about the females having children, it's about the males having children, because they themselves are not in a position, it's easy to become a daddy but not a father.
Right.
Especially if they are not emotionally and mentally mature enough to understand that something can arise from them having sex early, either to the female clinically, psychologically, and putting themselves in a position where they potentially could be giving up a part of their adolescent life because they now have to become an adult, they're a mother or a father earlier. And if they really don't have a support system behind them, because maybe their parents are also young as well.
Right.
So it can be a domino effect of mal. But it is unfortunate. But what we find is that especially now, our younger children now, because the world has evolved and everything is moving so quickly, and we are very in this instantaneous kind of life, and everything is very flashy, and you know, teenagers now don't get a chance to really sit and really take into account like what the world is really about. Am I really, what is the risk associated with me having sex at 14, 15 and 16? Am I ready emotionally, mentally, psychologically? What's going to happen to me 5 years down the road, 6 years? Am I going to be able to finish my university degree? Am I going to do this? Am I going to do that? What about the child? Is the child now going to be looked after properly at my age, because I'm still a child?
Right. All right. We're gonna listen to a voice note, and then I go back to Mr. Fennell.
Yeah, definitely. I think young people should wait to get involved in any form of sexual activity. Sex does come with its own set of responsibilities, and a lot of young people are not emotionally equipped to deal with that side of responsibility. You're looking at things like the possibility of pregnancy. You're looking at things of the possibility of you contracting some sort of STI, and you're looking at sex is on a whole will just open a lot of emotions that at that age you shouldn't be focused on that. You should be focusing on your future in terms of, personal development, whether it's educationally, emotionally, So sex is something that you definitely can't wait to deal with. It will come. The time will come. The right time will come when you're equipped to deal with things like that.
Sex at an early age can be damaging. I was 10 years old when somebody much older than me have sex with me. She was 18 and I was 10. And it scarred me up to this day. So in Jamaica right now, I think sometimes people have sex too early and it really hurt them in the long run.
All right. Mr. Fennel.
All right, so I want to comment on something that the doctor mentioned earlier about young people being exposed to different STIs. Now, the problem I have with raising the age of consent to 18 is because the average first sexual experience, especially for young boys, is 14, right? That's 14, right? Now, and they are going to be having sex whether we like it or not, whether we
Consented.
change, no matter what the age of consent is. When they're going to have sex, they don't sit down and say, boy, babes, the age of consent is 18. So
Just move it up.
no, they're, if them are gonna do them thing, them are gonna do it, right? So my issue with moving it up is that if it moves to 18, then persons below 18, let's say 17, 16, who are having sex, they wouldn't be able to access things like condoms and morning after pill and other contraceptives, and HIV and other STIs is more common among young people. You get me? So there are issues with moving it up. I mean, we don't want them to be having sex too early, but I mean, they are going to be, so it's a balance.
But
can't set it too high or too low either.
Well, there is no too high, especially from the woman point of view, right? But the view on that is to at least have certain men, after certain men would leave the young girls to at least grow. Right? So a lot of the consent coming with the 18 is really for the older men who is okay to have a 16-year-old girl.
Right.
Or an older woman to have a 16-year-old boy. A 16-year-old girl mentally is not ready for sex. 18, nor is a boy, but 18 is a little more, she finished high school. Most 18-year-old is out of high school, going to another level in her life. So it gives her a little more, stability and maturity. So that's my view on that part of it. It's not dwelling 16. Really, they should say 21.
Wow. Some would differ on that point, though.
Everybody will have their own views.
Right.
And as I said, but this is why our society is the way. Just like the doctors say, a young girl gone to push her hanger up to try and get her period back. If she was an adult-minded person or an adult-age person, she would have known how to deal with it in a different way. But on that note, we're going to take a break from Sex on the Bridge. We'll be right back. You mean? Welcome back to Sex on the Bridge. Yes, with me, the original dancehall queen. I do have some young men in the studio. Earlier on, we had Crystal, we had Rihanna, we had the specialist. We now have a doctor, and we have two young men. But I wonder if you guys knew that song was about consent. Well, you can go on the Bridge site and see. But we're going to go to some giveaways before I get back to my panelists. Not first.
Okay.
Right.
All
You're
right.
not the first choice. His mic wasn't on. He wants to know if he can answer the questions to win the prize. So for Candelan, we have 2 tickets to give away, and we have some sex goodies. Can you tell me what day is the party. Candyland.
Pass the ticket, mama. See it.
If hopefully you were listening, like I've been talking about this date for the last 3 weeks. So the number is 876-676-4996 for you to win your Candyland tickets to Cheryl Lugs with All birthday party.
No clue. Can guess?
No, you're not the first choice.
Okay.
You're the last choice. All right, so before we went to the break, we heard a voice note from a young man who said at 10 years old, he was molested, raped, whatever, by an 18-year-old woman, and it scars him. What's your take on that?
It's not uncommon. A lot of us in Jamaica think that the roles that men and women take in terms of sexual predatory or sexual advancement is more on the man to the woman. You do find in Jamaica especially, and it is not as uncommon, that you have a lot of older women who will prey on younger boys, and they will prey on them because, one, some women do feel that they can only emasculate a young boy at that age rather than somebody who is their peer. Or as a young man, you want a new phone, you want flashy clothes, you want to go here, you want to go there, and it can provide a source of income to supply his needs. But yeah, it is predatory behavior. And it is going to men are societally supposed to be more tougher than women, but men are men, and we are human beings, and we have emotions, and a young boy at that age is going to have some emotional trauma, especially because more than likely he's also seeing this woman as his mother, his auntie. So think about your mother or your auntie doing that to somebody who you will look up to at that age.
That's disturbing.
It's very disturbing.
I want to hear his view too.
On the surface, you would look at that situation of a older woman having sex with a boy at age 10, and you would say, that's good for him, man. Him get a head start early in life, him broke him ducks from early. However, when you don't give consent to the person, no matter how great the sex is, it turns into a very horrible experience. Because I spoke to somebody who was sexually abused when she was younger, and she was saying, the person used to even give her oral sex. Mm-hmm. You get me? And I jokingly say, you never enjoy it and thing. And she was telling me that when you don't give consent, no matter what, it's very horrific. Right? So it doesn't really matter sex. Once you don't give your consent, it's very traumatic.
And I think at 10 years old, that's doesn't matter if you're a boy, and especially if you're a girl. But being in that he's a boy, and he can say he's an adult now to say it scarred him.
Right. And I think, Carlene, to one of the long-term effects of that, when he grows up, how does he look at women now?
Exactly.
Because he
have any respect.
He's not going to want to be resentful to women.
Or just think this is what it's going to be all the time. I want to ask Dr. Jones. Dr. Jones, give me your intake on, a 10-year-old boy being sexually, by an 18-year-old woman.
Well, as Walter said, it's not uncommon at all, especially in Jamaican society. It's something that happens very, very frequently. You'll be frightened to know that probably in the primary schools, them call it purple touch. I don't know if you know about that game.
Yeah, man.
No, let me hear about that.
You know about purple touch, Carly?
No, I've never heard the term. Still old school.
Well, it's a sex-oriented, not necessarily sexual in a sense, but it's a game that leans towards or inclines towards sexual orientation between children. They play
in primary school.
No, well, I knew it in high school.
How is it played, please?
Well, I don't know the exact way the game is played, but for sure I've heard many times about it,
Hold on, Elias, you know how purple touch is?
How we used to play it, you would like if you don't have on your cree, if you don't have on your cree, You can get for, touch a girl a certain place. Right?
And she's part of the game, so it's okay.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
A part of the dangerous part of purple touch.
And the girl can touch you?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
Oh, because it's if you don't have on whatever the Cree is. All right.
Yeah.
Continue, Dr. Jones.
Yeah, so I'm saying, so even things like that, that's been very much embedded within our culture. So it shows that it's something that's within us from a very, very, very tender age. Most fathers, as a matter of fact, would feel comfortable knowing that, especially Jamaican setting, would feel comfortable knowing that, me know for sure say my boy not straight, not tall, because I know my little youth, him gone to him definitely with girls because him a play around with girls, So in Jamaican culture, it's so pressuring. So as I said, it's not uncommon. It's not hard to believe that yes, there are older women who do take advantage of younger men, especially the unfortunate ones. You have young boys who really and truly just have it rough. They just can't. And there's a thing when somebody not really firm has this mental this mental strength to where they can say, hey, well, I can go through this period of toughness or darkness in my life. I might not be financially best set up, but here what I can hold out. Not many of them can do that, and so there are predatory people who take advantage of this, So, right. So they can say, here, well, whenever you used to get 3 meals a day, no man get 3 meals a day, right. So why not,
You think
so that's how it is.
You think it's a reason for a female to want to touch a younger boy? Like how, some men are just predators, as you're saying, or just sick individuals. They tend not to know this happen a lot from women too. Is it a reason? Can you see the signs in a woman who likes babies, young boys, much older men? Is there signs for you to look for?
That's actually a very good question. I can't say if there's specific signs, to be honest, because really and truly what I would answer and say is you have some. Then again, it's really hard to tell because there's people that are very good at masking these things. And regardless, I think those who are really obvious are the ones in some form of obsessive or controlling type of, behavior patterns. But I don't want to say that every elderly woman you see out there that has that type of controlling dominance does that. I'm not saying that.
Right.
But it's really hard to say. There is no specific signs that I can point at and say, hey, from what you see a 40 or a 30-year-old or doing that, then probably should doing that. No, I can't say for sure. But that's a really good question, though.
Okay. Is there things we can do to help children? Can we tell signs in the children if they're being molested?
And that also is a very good question because as medical practitioners, we're trained that when children do come into our office, we do look out for certain signs. A sense of uneasiness, a sense of what we call, nervousness, shy, not willing to talk, especially if they're around their parents too. And why is it that we're mostly talking about external harassment or external predatorial personnel when sometimes in families, within our very same family structures, the older ones, such as the uncles, are the ones who are taking set on the younger children. And you can really tell because if you get a child, and we're trained to pick up these things, because the moment we pick it up, we have to report it, right? A child can sit in front of you, and oftentimes when they do go through these sexual experiences, there's also a sense of trauma. So physical trauma sometimes too, right? So a child can have, let's say, a broken hand or a dislocated hip, right? And they'll be there in discomfort. And you can tell that they'll cover, literally keep quiet right through, just to cover up for them parent, cover up for whoever is there because they know that, hey, I can't really actually sell out money or I can't sell out this because who will look after me afterwards? They are aware of this. But there are signs that other doctors.
And some of the signs that parents should look out for, like a child would come and say, I don't want to stay with Walter, and continue to say, should parents listen to children, and what are some of the things you'd hear them saying over and over that tells you there's some abuse going on?
I always believe that no matter how adult-like a child may appear, a child is a child, and children are innocent. I believe that when a child talks, you should listen. And there's a reason why it's coming from a place of purity. you know. Yes, definitely, parents should treat children as their, listen to them, treat them as your friends, not just because you're a parent means there's a sense of authority above them. Yes, you do for sure, but there has to be some form of comfort or a leveling ground where they're capable of saying, hey, mommy, hey, daddy, here, this is something that happened. I'm not comfortable. Or hey, I don't want to be around Uncle Gary. Or hey, I don't want that girl over the house again. And when you hear things like that, it shouldn't. The first thing should come to mind and say, hey, talk to me. Why? Why is it that you don't want Uncle Gary around? What's happening? When I was a child, I remember my father, my mom used to tell me, say, hey, what? Guess what? They literally tell me say they don't want me, or they don't necessarily want to grow me in the big yard setting. I don't know if you know what big yard setting means. Where you have 10, 15, how much people in one household or one big yard. Figure what I mean. My mom and dad were very, 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 very strict about certain things. They created a lot of structure, meaning that it was just us really and truly. But we weren't afraid to approach them and say, hey, I want to know about this, or hey, can I tell you this, right? But I mean, it's heavily dependent on the parents. You know, create a structure for your children,
and listen to them.
Create a leveling ground, right? Listen to them, talk to them, build a trust. It's very, very important.
I want to comment on
Yes,
that.
go ahead.
I think many times when abuse is taking place in the family, the child does speak out about it. Now, does the mother take action? You know, it depends. You know, oftentimes if it's a case where the person doing the abuse, right, the perpetrator is in a place of power,
and
you get me,
finance.
financially or whatever, then no, the mother is in a position where she considers not reporting the case, you know. So that's usually the issue. The child, from what I've heard, usually comes out on the first day and says, you know, I think, you know, somebody is touching me, right?
I'm not sure if. Sorry, go.
As well, I think one of the things that are critical, children will not always speak to their parents.
Right.
So this whole concept about it takes a village to raise a child is very, very important. And if in the community you don't really, the community doesn't play a role to say, let's say a child, and the child is showing signs that there is something in the behavior that's not right, and just start a conversation with the child and find out exactly what is going on, because they just they may feel embarrassed and they don't want to talk to mom or daddy about that. There may be somebody who they figure is far removed from them that they can speak to. But if you don't catch it from the village raising the child point of view,
it's out of control.
It's out of control.
All right. I want to thank you all. But we're going to listen to a voice note, another voice note. I don't know why they don't.
No, I didn't wait until the age of consent, but I think 18 is definitely a decent age, because you brought yourself past a certain maturity level, and you're now possibly gearing towards seriousness in life at age 18. So I think 18 is fair.
I did not wait on the age of consent. I think 18 is an appropriate age. I guess, and knowing what I know now, would I still wait? No, because I think experience is better as a male to have, not necessarily for you to be out there running rampant in young girls' vaginas, but the experience is necessary, because as a male, nobody wants somebody that's as a male, no partner out there that's looking for a male partner wants them to be inexperienced, unless they are somebody that particularly wants that. Outside of that, it's generally better to have experience, because women in and of themselves don't want to be your proving ground.
Carlene, please answer.
Who is he going to be having the experience with? What, some older women?
Can ask the person sending another voice note.
Yeah, because, you know, other people is age.
Yeah.
So therefore, the peer pressure is still onto the girl where you're asking not to. Anyways, this will never end. But I just want to thank you guys. But I'd like to know how you can get in touch with you both. Tell us your pages, your Instagram.
All right. So
any projects coming up, any work you need Go ahead.
All right, so I'm on Instagram, hashtag WJD, and on Facebook, Walter J. Davis. I'm also a justice of the peace. So I work with kids in the community all the while, mentorship. So you can hit me up on Instagram or hit me up on Facebook. I really take that level of mentorship for young people in the society, especially boys, very seriously. I'm a Kiwanian as well. So it's in my blood. So hit me up. Anything to do with mentorship of young boys, young girls, and how I can help. I'm always ready.
All right.
All right, so you can check me out on Instagram at Elias Fennell, EliasFennell. Now I'm a peer educator at Children First Agency, the Bashibos crew, right? So we bring across and we try to address topical issues that are affecting young people in a creative way.
Nice.
So if a school is having an issue with, let's say, drug use or teenage pregnancy or whatever, we sit down and we create a piece that will showcase the issue, so like a drama skit or a song or dance. Nice. And we come and present it to the students, and it showcases the issue that they're facing. Nice. As well as the solution. So right now, if you want to book us, you can link us on Instagram at Bashibos. Right, reach out and we can come to a school or organization.
Well, I want to say congratulations, Carlene, because honestly, one of my things is that as Jamaicans, we don't have conversations a lot, and a lot of things that we think are very taboo, we don't speak about.
Truly.
And for you to have a program that really deals with it and it's adding to the conversation, so big up, really.
Thank you.
Yeah,
and Dr. Jones?
So guys, you can find me on Instagram at Dr. K Jones, Doctor as in Dr. K Jones _GP. Right, and I'm currently services. We're all about doing mobile medicine. We go to people's home and we help them. So you can find them at IG at Comfy Medical. Thank you.
Quick. All right. Oh, thank you so very much. And we're back in studio with Crystal and Rihanna. Just want to thank you guys too for being here, sharing with us. And any final words to, the young people out there who can understand through the young people like yourselves. And tag your social or you as in your job, yes. your product.
Okay, so my advice to you guys is don't skip the line. Just wait your turn, as Alkaline would say, But honestly though, wait until the time is right. Wait until you're comfortable. And that's pretty much it. My socials are at the for Instagram it's at the Remills, THERHEMILLS _, and you can follow my business page at Naturalista Dreams _ NATURLISTADREAMS _. That is an all-natural, organic, vegan skin, hair, and cosmetic line. So you guys can follow that page. I also have a pop-up shop on the 17th of October at the AC Hotel from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. It's the Tastamas Artisan Expo. So make sure you guys come out, shop, eat, and drink, and support. Mm-hmm. So,
any last words to, the young ladies and men out there?
Yes, so first I just want to say happy birthday to my sister Zia. Happy birthday. Also, I think that everyone should have a very close relationship with their parents.
Yes.
Ladies especially, I think you should have a very close relationship with their mother because they do know what's best for you. And yes.
Yes, that's
I just want to
true.
say thank you, Mom, because you really made our relationship, you made it a safe place for me where I can have just a straight up conversation with you. I'm not scared to come to you about anything, and you give me the best advice ever. Like, you really truly are my best friend, my therapist, my everything in one. I just want to say thank you. And thank you, Rihanna, for coming on.
Yes.
My friend for over 15 years.
That's right.
You see, when we talk about certain things, as female, people tend to think, oh, it's one-sided. And we've heard from some of the voice notes that we got that the men are also being pressured. I mean, some of them was like, oh, yes, I started at this age, or I started. But not every boy that goes through sexual experiences at a 14 or 17 likes it.
That's true.
And
'cause
girls
I know some
pressure
persons
boys too. It's not only the reverse. Girls pressure boys, as Fennel said, you know, they're put in a position to say, well, I need to know what I'm doing by time I'm age 17. One of the voice noters said, if I don't get no experience when I get to the real girl, I'm not gonna know what to do. And that's not true. You can learn together, read books, go on. No, you can Google everything. Unfortunately or fortunately, you can Google everything. So you don't have to go to 10 boys or 10 girls to know that it's going to make it different. First of all, going through 10 boys or 10 girls, you might still don't learn anything. So sometimes
just more bodies to your body.
To cause more problem, as the doctor explained. You know, it's okay that, yes, you might have one sexual partner, but if you start so early, by the time you get to 25, you know, you'd have probably gone through, because you have choices, so you change through. Go ahead.
Let me just say this. I honestly I would say from my personal experience, I would rather just have one person that I will continuously have sexual encounters with than have numerous persons, due to the fact that, one, a lot of people say they're changing due to the fact that men give born and this, that. Cheating, as according to people, is inevitable. It happens. I mean, not necessarily from my standpoint, but, you know, it happens. So why not just have that encounter with one person rather than multiple?
Yes. If everybody looked at it like that, I guess it would make a difference. Do I have a call? I have somebody. What's the date for the show?
Me, I'll answer it.
Really? Friday, October 21. That's for Candleline. He got his ticket. I'd have to figure out something else, because you heard him loudly. So
you can ask me one of the sponsors.
All right. So Fennel won the first ticket for Candleline. Sure. Somebody's gone with the Candleline ticket. And can you tell me one of the sponsors for Candleline?
Designer Bodies.
She got the other ticket. So share both tickets are gone for Candyland. Guys, you had the opportunity to win it. But firstly, I want to take some big up and some thank you. I want to thank all my voice noters. I don't know what happened to the callers tonight. They got shy. Yeah, they all sent voice note tonight. I think they were intimidated by the two beautiful young ladies. Then the other half was the two handsome young men, plus the cute doctor. I mean, I don't know what caused everybody to just send in, but I want to thank you again for always tuning in to The Bridge 99 FM, to Sex on the Bridge with me, the original dancehall queen. I want to say some special big ups now to, of course, my producer, yes, my hot Daniela Doyle, and my cute dreadlocks engineer, Kevin Williams. Ryan, don't get vexed. Don't get jealous. He's still too young. You know, I don't like that kind of young age. Yeah. And, of course, Cher Lugs with all Candyland birthday party, the 21st of October, hosted by the Dollies. Guys, you have to come out. It's at Stadium on the 21st of October. Yes. You also have Shabada's Play, Man Problem, Mandeville on the 23rd of October. That's a Sunday. Want to big up my hair by Dana Bell. Yes, Dana Bell here on Instagram. And my makeup is by, what again? Crystal. Yeah, Crystal.
Makeup by Crystal.
No, it's not makeup. It's Glam by Crystal on Instagram. So I want to thank everybody who participates in getting me together. Sophia Jones, big up to you. And I just want to say, please, if you can't be good, be respectful. And you'll hear from me next week, Tuesday, same time, same place, at The Bridge 99 FM for Sex on the Bridge. And Pinky, Lorraine, big up. Love you guys. Ryan, I don't need to say Crystal because I usually end it with saying
Crystal.
good night to Crystal. So good night and respect to you all.